The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 36. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of outstanding women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com to check out amazing blog articles and our killer resources. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap-Chan, and today's guest, I have a special lady out here. She is currently living in Asheville, North Carolina. She is a coach, and her name is Sora Surya. And Sora, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to do this, and maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really quite delighted to be here. So yes, I'm a coach. I'm an intuitive business coach that works with women around their soul paths and how they have one place where they have come from and journeyed and understood that there was a lot of challenges, moved through it, and now is a place of service. So I go around the world and I travel and I lead women's circle trainings to help women understand how they can incorporate the idea of circle and ritual and ceremonies into their offerings as an entrepreneur. And then I lead women on sacred retreats in Peru so that they learn all about magic and energy work in conjunction with leading their own retreats. So that sums up what I do.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Going to Peru too. I mean, I've always wanted to check out Machu Picchu. I hope I said that right.
You said it absolutely right. And it's quite a beautiful, spectacular, sacred spot. It's powerful.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what is your cultural background?
Yeah, I'm Korean American. I was born and raised in New York, and my parents immigrated probably when they were in their late 20s from Korea.
Nice. Have you ever been to Korea yet?
I have. I've been there 3 times, but I'm such a seeker of life and culture that there's so many places I want to visit, so it's been a while since I've returned.
Awesome. That's another place I'll have to check out soon. So, Sora, in your, I just wanted to ask you, what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
Ooh, my self-confidence quote. I think for me, it's kind of a motto, an affirmation that I use all the time. And that is, all creatures are wild and free. And for me, I add in another word. And for me, I believe that all beings are wild, free, and calm.
Nice. I like that. Sometimes we have to learn to be wild and free so we can attract the right things into our life, because when we limit ourselves to certain things, then we're not getting the things that we want. So I really appreciate that. And in your own words, how would you define self-confidence?
Absolutely. Self-confidence is one that I had been working on for a really long time. 1, I think culturally, and 2, just around some of the experiences I had when I was a child that caused me not to have any self-confidence. And so for me, self-confidence is really being able to tap in very deeply to understanding who I am, what's my voice, so what's my truth, being very empowered to state my truth and live a life that I know is in full alignment with my soul. And so from that place, I can be confident.
I love that. You know, being aligned with, your spirit, your soul, and mentally really does help you have that self-confidence in you. So I really love that definition you mentioned. And so you mentioned when you were a child, you didn't really have that self-confidence. Was that how your life was like before?
Absolutely. For a really long time. I would probably say up to about 2 years ago, I was still wavering in a lot of ways. So in Asian culture, for myself anyway, there was a lot of making sure that everyone was feeling okay. And so ensuring that everyone else's best interest is to play. And so I wasn't having any confidence around what I desired. It was more around feeling into the community, the collective, my parents, my friends. And so there was a lot of feeling of being lost in me, and then really hesitant around using my voice to be empowered and to state what it is that I needed was hard as well. And so from that place, it was then very murky to understand what it is that I desire to do in my life. So I dabbled in so many things with this underlying voice in me that said I needed to have a professional job and I needed to be very lucrative and be, quote, successful by making a lot of money and all of those things. And I did everything that I was supposed to. I went to an Ivy League school. I was in finance. I worked in business. I was a teacher, like all of these, quote, professional jobs that made me seem very well, highly qualified. And at the same time, there was always this voice within me that hesitated around it because I knew that there was more to me than just that, but it was quite different. And so I kept on losing more and more of my self-worth and confidence over the years because I wasn't aligned with my vision.
Thanks for sharing that. And it's, I think as Asian women in general, I mean, we've always been told to just, go to work, get a job, go to
get
school.
married, have kids.
Yeah. And never rock the boat, right? Don't say a word because you're going to embarrass the family. You're going to embarrass yourself. People are going to start calling you crazy. And really, that's not really empowering women. In fact, it's doing the opposite, because when you oppress women like that, that's where their self-confidence starts to decrease, right? You start losing yourself in the process. And like you said, right, you kind of lost a sense of yourself because you weren't too sure what you wanted to do, and you weren't in alignment with your vision now. So what was that realization or aha moment that you had, knowing that you were more than just working at a corporate America, that you can do so many more things?
Yeah. What happened to me was my body broke down. And I started being incredibly sad and frustrated with my work. And it wasn't just the job itself. I first thought it was just the company, but it wasn't. It was more than that. And it was finally me being on the floor with my back giving out and literally not being able to move for 3 days, where I had some space and time to really understand what in the world was going on and why I was so sad and depressed and depleted. And so from that place, I needed to build myself back up. So of course, I started doing yoga, which to me is the gateway into spirituality. And after starting doing yoga, I was able to calm myself and my system down in order to find a little clarity around my inner voice, my inner truth. And that guided me to traveling. And from traveling, I noticed, there's something in me that feels the need to unleash my wild. And from that place, I'll be able to understand what my next steps are. And so that pivotal moment was my body breaking down. And I encourage all of you for that not to happen. If you feel an inkling not to let your body be the signifying factor, it's usually the last step, the last call of despair. But instead know that there is a place right now that you can take some steps to change you and your life and your mental state.
Wow, that's pretty amazing what you've just shared. And it's true, your body, you have to be in like a healthy state, and the last thing you want to break down is your body, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's just pretty scary too at the same time. So I'm glad, something so drastic was able to help you realize that, you're more than just being a corporate America girl, I guess, or just being the businesswoman. And so, after that realization, what's your life like now?
It was great because I finally listened. 6 months later, I started traveling. And so I did listen to my intuition. And so now what my life looks like is I'm a woman, I'm an entrepreneur. I travel the world and I do trainings in different cities, and I call in women, and I continuously build a global tribe of women who are soulful feminine leaders who desire to create and make great impact in the world by first working on themselves, being very upfront with what their shadows are so that they can move through them, and then using those lessons to then authentically be out there in the world, sharing their message and teaching their gifts. And so I do that, and now I've firmly planted into this beautiful life with my gorgeous partner here in Asheville, and I'm learning how to be a free, wild spirit, but also calm and be rooted and grounded in things like relationships and partnership and work, and systematize things while still exploring Mother Nature and the magic that happens when you're fully in alignment.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And, to the woman who's listening to this episode, right, she's also in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to that listener or to the woman who's listening right now?
So for me, I would say that the way in which my self-confidence began to unfold and I was able to see her very clearly about 2-3 years ago was in sisterhood. I was part of a group of women who were mostly all entrepreneurs, and we worked together and we supported each other every week. And I started to understand who I was and what I needed. And it was only because these women around me who weren't catty, who were incredibly loving, incredibly soul-centered, had already visioned and knew exactly who I was and where I was heading. And there was greatness involved. And from that, very quickly, within 6 months, I shifted. I started to walk differently, act differently, talk differently, but it wasn't a different extension of me. It was actually me remembering my own self-worth, and so therefore I became incredibly confident. So I would say don't do it alone. Find some sisters, find a community and a tribe that gets you, but not only gets you, but that you seek to be as great as, because there is that greatness within you.
Well, thank you for that tip. And I believe, surrounding yourselves with like-minded women can help you with your self-confidence. I mean,
yes,
I've done the same thing. I've connected with amazing, most of them are also female entrepreneurs, but when you see that they're doing the same thing as you are, they're going through the same challenges and be able to overcome those hurdles, I mean, it just shows what's possible. And, this podcast is the same thing. I want it to be a support system to any woman who feels like they're alone, because you don't have to do this alone, right? That's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
You're here listening to Sora's story because you want to be able to get out of any funk or, any darkness that you're struggling with right now. So thanks for sharing that, Sora. And if the listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and your services, is there a website that we can go to?
Absolutely. Right before that, I just want to say one comment with this, especially as Asian women, we tend to think that we need to do it alone, that there's shame involved in stating when we are going through something. And so I just want to identify that out loud and say it's not true, and that by stating it with a community, there's a lot more impact that occurs when we're able to share vulnerably. But that's enough. People can find me if you'd like. You can follow me and find me more at sorasurya.com or any of the social media sites like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest by using Sora Surya No.
Awesome. And I love that tip that you mentioned, because it's true, right? It's like, as Asian women, we're supposed to just not have any emotions. And
and we hide it. We very much hide it.
Women are emotional beings. It's okay if we're vulnerable, right? Because when we're aware of our vulnerability, that's when we can, be aware of it, let it go, and start receiving the better feelings into our lives, start attracting the better things. So to the listeners out there, I mean, any women, of course, but, don't be afraid to show your emotions. If you feel sad, be sad. Let it, just cry it out. Then you can release it and then accept new things. So to the listeners out there, if you want to connect with Sora, just head over to the taoofselfconfidence.com, search for Sora's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I just want to thank Sora for taking the time to share her journey, to share her story. So thank you so much, Sora.
Thank you. This is so much fun. Thanks, Sheena.
No problem. And listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for connecting with us on the Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit thetaoofselfconfidence.com for links to everything we chatted about, as well as killer resources, gifts, and so much more.